Krista Rinehart. I'm a 99 grad of Center College, and I'm currently the director of annual giving here at Center. And I love to read. I start every day off with a cup of coffee and a book. So I tend to go through a decent number of books every year. So when Kenny asked me to do an installment of Center Reads, it was a really hard choice for me to pick just 3 books. So I may cheat a little and sneak in some extra suggestions, so pay attention. But my official 3 picks are, first, Just Mercy by Bryan Stevenson. Now, I am typically a fiction reader. I read a couple nonfiction every year just to kind of make myself expand my horizons and stuff, but I gravitate toward fiction. But this year, I started my reading journey off with this book, and it is truly a mind-blowing, gripping story that kind of brings the difficulties in our criminal justice system and the inequities in it to life. It makes it flesh and blood. And it kind of has started as a gateway book for me. I've read, almost a half dozen, if not more, other nonfiction books in this area, including Cast by Elizabeth Wilkerson. That's going to be my first sneak pick. She's nominated for a National Book Award this year for that book, and it was amazing, absolutely fabulous. So check that out too. But first, pick this one up. Even if you've seen the movie, go read the book. The movie was a very good adaptation as far as that goes, but it just can't quite capture the full humanity behind the story that Bryan tells about the people that have, kind of moved the course of his life and the inequities and injustices out there that he's fighting to help overtake. So take a look at this. It's a great eye-opening book. I think you'll really, really like it. It doesn't read like nonfiction. It reads like a story. So Just Mercy. All right, book number 2. And I'm sorry, I have to apologize. I hate dust jackets. So I'm just going to show you the spine because I toss those darn dust jackets as soon as I start a book. So book number 2 is The Great Believers by Rebecca Makkai, or McKay. Sorry, I'll probably butcher all these authors' names. I actually read this book last year, but I have not stopped recommending it. So I had to include it as one of my picks. It is a haunting story of friendship and loyalty. It's set against the backdrop of society when it was being ravaged by AIDS back in the 1980s. It kind of tracks a group of friends through life, death, all the in-between. To me, it kind of had a feel of a modern Great Gatsby society friendship story that had that searing loyalty of a Gus McCrae and Woodrow Call friendship from Lonesome Dove. So I could not put this book down. I've recommended it to literally at least a dozen friends in the year or so since I've read it, and nobody has just been disappointed yet. It's one of those stories that just truly sticks with you long after you read the final page. So go get it. The Great Believers. You will not be disappointed. Beautiful story. Book number 3. I have always loved Toni Morrison as my favorite author of all time. If you haven't read her, go do it. But I've always kind of been captivated and loved that African-American narrative voice out there. Toni obviously is kind of the queen when it comes to those stories. A modern Toni Morrison, in my opinion, is Yaa Gyasi. Her Homegoing and Transcendent Kingdom novels are both amazing. Homegoing is probably one of my top 5. Almost picked her second book, Transcendent Kingdom, for my third choice. But I picked A Girl with a Louding Voice by Abi Daré instead, mainly because the protagonist's voice in this book is just so vital and so beautiful that I gave it the nod over Transcendent Kingdom, though it is worth checking out as well. The Girl with a Louding Voice is the story of a young Nigerian girl named Aduni, whose mother, right before she dies, instills in her a determination and a conviction that education is the key to finding her louding voice, which is her ability to speak for herself and determine her own destiny. So this book is her story of how she fights against incredible odds to achieve that goal and to get an education. And so as someone who values education as one of, if not probably the most equalizing forces in society, I just thought this story was a beautiful portrayal of the power of knowledge and self-discovery and how education instills that and gives that to people. So it truly touched me to my core. It's a beautiful book, much in the vein of a Toni Morrison. It's very much in that vein, and I loved it. So Girl with a Louding Voice. And now, I know I've done 3 official picks. I'm going to sneak in a youth pick because I'm the daughter of a 13-year-old voracious reader. The biggest challenge of motherhood thus far, and I've been very lucky, has been keeping my kid in books. So my fellow 99 grad and former roommate, Terry Beth Brunker Smith, works for Scholastic and has been a godsend in that area. And this year she introduced our household to The House by the Cerulean Sea by T.J. Klune. It is a great little preteen young adult book. It's a fantastical story of misfit orphan creatures who find a home and a refuge on an island orphanage. It is a very clever look at the differences that separate us, but that should actually be celebrated. And it is a beautiful, beautiful commentary for today's world. So I thoroughly enjoyed it as an adult. Campbell loved it. So it's a great pick for both adults and young readers alike. So there you have it. My 3 or 6 or 7 great picks for what book you should pick up next. Happy reading.